welcome back to Cookery with Dr. Hussain. Today I'm going to be making a very delicious and nutritious quiche. It's a salmon, prawn and broccoli quiche. If you would like to join me for this, you will need... To make 6 portions of salmon, king prawn and broccoli quiche, you will need 80 grams of margarine plus some for greasing, 200 grams of plain flour, 80 millilitres of cold water, 1 teaspoon of salt, 130 grams of broccoli, 100 grams of smoked salmon, 150 grams of cooked king prawns, 6 large eggs, 100 millilitres of unsweetened oat milk or full fat milk if you prefer, 2 spring onions, 1 teaspoon of fresh dill, 1 teaspoon of fresh basil and sea salt and pepper to taste. You will also need a 23 cm or 9-inch quiche or flan dish. You need to preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius. This recipe is dairy-free friendly. So your first step is to grease your quiche tin, and I've just put you can see a thin layer of margarine on that. I have got a loose bottom tin, so it makes it easier for me to get my quiche out at the end, but if you've greased it well and it isn't loose bottom, don't worry, it should still come out. So that's job number 1. Our next job is to make the pastry. So in this bowl I've got my 200 grams of flour. I have got 80 grams of margarine here, which I'm going to add. And I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. There we go. And now I need to mix all this together, so I'm going to make it into a sort of breadcrumb style before I add the water. So if you've got a food processor at home, you can use your food processor and blitz it and mix it and it'll come together very quickly. I am not using a food processor today, I'm going to do it by hand. So all I'm going to do is squeeze the margarine between my fingers with the flour like this. And so I'm mixing the two together, and the salt's in there as well. So when it feels like it all looks a bit like breadcrumbs, and it's very consistent, we're ready to add our water. And all we need to do now is mix that together. Hopefully it will come together to form a dough. There we go. A little bit sticky, which is good because you want it all to come together and stick together, so you can make a little dough ball. So just keep mixing until it comes together. Sticks to your fingers, don't worry, just take it off and then give it another mix. You want to get the bits of flour that are at the bottom mixing in like so. If you just keep mixing it and squeezing it together like this, eventually you'll end up with a dough ball. And our pastry dough we can then leave to chill for a bit, because if you leave it to chill it'll be easy to roll, it won't fall apart and it will cook better. So I'm going to do now, I'm going to just put this together and then I'm going to wrap it in cling film and put it into the fridge to cool for 15 minutes. So my pastry has been in the fridge and I'm just taking it out. So not only will putting it in the fridge help to roll it out better, it allows the gluten to relax and stretch within the pastry, and therefore when I roll it out and it goes into the oven, it will stay in shape and it won't all come back. So here we go, and I need to roll it out. So what you want to do is roll it out so that it's about a few centimetres, about a couple of inches I should say, bigger than the diameter of your tin. So, and it needs to be about the thickness of about a £1 coin, something like that. So use flour if you need to. I'm just going to spread my flour out so it doesn't stick. and then keep rolling. Have a check. Yeah, that should hopefully cover. So I'm now going to lift that and put it into my tin. So really carefully, what you can do is bring the tin under it and then lift it up into the tin. Okay, and that just crack slightly there, don't worry. I can adjust that in a moment. So I'm just going to lift it to get a bit further in. There we go. And then what you need to do is make sure you press it right into the corners, or the edges, it's not really corners, so that it's not got any air between the bottom and the edges. Okay, and then the extra pastry you can just at this stage leave, just go over the edges. Prick it with a fork, let the air get to it. Paper, place it on top, like so. And then, to blind bake, you require some baking beads, or if you haven't got baking beads, you can use rice, okay? So I've got my baking beads here, and I'm just literally going to pour them in. Top of the bottom. And that will hold it all in place. To blind bake it. And this is now going to go into my preheated oven for 15 minutes, at which point I will take it out, remove the beans, and then it'll go back in for a bit longer. Okay, so this is ready for the oven for 15 minutes. So while the pastry is blind baking, I am going to steam my broccoli florets. So I've got my florets and I've cut them into small floret sizes, and 130 grams, and I'm going to put them into a steamer and steam for about 10 minutes, just so that they're slightly blanched. And my broccoli has finished steaming, so I'm just going to leave it now to cool. So we can add it to the eggs. We don't want it to be too hot when it goes into the eggs. We don't want to make the eggs curdles. So I've just got my pastry out the oven. I'm really carefully going to remove the baking beans, put them back in a bowl to cool. And I've now reduced the oven temperature by 20 degrees C, and I'm going to pop this back into the oven for 10 minutes. So while the pastry's gone back into the oven, I'm going to prepare my ingredients to go into the filling. So I've got 2 spring onions here. I'm just going to remove the ends, and then I'm going to finely chop them, ready to go into the filling. Okay. I've also got my herbs here, so I've got dill. So you want about a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, depends on how much you like. So I've got effectively 2 sprigs of dill. I love dill, it smells amazing, and it goes so well with sort of salmon, sea bass, those types of fish. You can have it with things like sour cream. You can mix it with cucumber and tomato and make some refreshing dips. It's a really, really versatile herb. So I'm just literally going to pull them off, and then not going to use a knife, just going to use my fingers just to pull them apart. And just put them on the chopping board. You have not to overdo it as well, because you don't want just to taste of the herbs. You want to be able to taste your fish and your prawns and your other ingredients. So again, I'm going to do the same with basil. I've got 6 large basil leaves here, fresh basil, and I'm just going to cut them up using my fingers so that we'll have some lovely basil in there as well. And this will equate to about a teaspoon's worth as well. So I have my 100 millilitres of milk here. I'm using oat milk, so it's a dairy friendly recipe. You can use full fat milk if you're just going to use normal milk. I'm going to add my 6 large eggs. I'm going to grab a fork and I'm going to give that a whisk. Mix them in with the eggs, with the milk, sorry. Good beating, get those yolks mixed in. Next I'm going to add some seasoning, so I'm going to add some pepper. Again, this is seasoned to taste, so how many grinds you like. I like pepper, so I'll add about 5 or 6 grinds, and salt, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give that another stir. Then I'm going to add my herbs that I chopped up earlier. Dill and basil. And give that a little stir. Now this mixture is now ready, so I'm just going to wait for my pastry. It's got about another minute to go. Once that is out of the oven, we can start assembling. I've just taken my pastry case out of the oven and now I'm ready to assemble the filling for the quiche. So I've got my cooled broccoli here, so I'm going to add that first. So just assemble it whichever way you like, just try and make it look pleasing to the eye. My prawns next. I've got 150 grams of king prawns here, so again you want to try and do it so that it's evenly spread, so when you cut it open later everyone will get a little bit of everything. Next I'm going to add my smoked salmon. Quite crumbled up, so it's quite easy to just sprinkle over everything. When you're happy that all your ingredients are in and you're happy with how it looks, then you can add the egg mixture on top with all the herbs. So just gently pour it evenly all around, to try and cover every area. So I tend to do the edges first and then go into the middle. I think that's already looking delicious. It hasn't even gone in the oven for the second part. So need to bake that obviously to cook all the egg. So before I put that in the oven, I'm just going to use a sharp knife, and now I can get rid of the excess pastry around the edge. So very carefully holding on. It is crispy, so just be careful. Just want to go around the edge and remove the excess pastry.
Top with the spring onions and place in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 35 to 45 minutes until the pastry is golden brown on the edges and the filling is set.
So here is the final product. Delicious salmon, king prawn and broccoli quiche. Really, really great dinner or lunch. You can have it with some salad on the side. It's fantastic. It's got omega-3, which is great for the brain. It's full of protein. It's got calcium from the milk. It's got vitamins and minerals from the vegetables. It's a really, really good all-round delicious thing to eat. Enjoy.